to happen. You know, it really does take a village. So thank you to EHI for these state-of-the-art wonderful facilities. Principal Padilla, thank you for letting us use the facilities. We want to say thank you to the Culinary Pathway. They made us cookies for dessert today. And then also the printing club, they made us signs so that you guys can find your ways into the black box auditorium here. So Robert's gonna do his presentation, and then we're gonna break for a little break, and then we're gonna introduce some sponsors. And then, we also wanna welcome, Mr. Michael Richards. He's here from the Alliance for Education. He's streaming this seminar and allowing hundreds of other classrooms throughout the county to be able to have access to this information. So that's a great thing for students, right? Wish I had this information when I was in school. So, well, without further ado, I think we're gonna start. So Robert has some great information for us today. He is licensed both in California and New York. He has 20 years experience in commercial real estate. My mentor, a wonderful mentor, Robert Carrillo.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Yvette. Thank you. I already lost my clicker, right? Right? So that's because I'm excited for a couple of reasons. One, I'm here at EHI. For those of you who don't know, I was a teacher here at EHI for a couple of years. I feel like I've been traveling sort of the EHI pathway myself, right? Came in here talking the talk, encouraging entrepreneurship. When you are faced with a problem, you look for solutions, right? You don't hang your head, you get up and you keep moving. And so sort of did that through here at EHI. So I'm glad to see some of my former students here and some of the future scholars as well. So for those of you who are in person, again, thank you. We've got folks on live stream. So thank you all for coming online as well. And so today, the talk is really, it's an introduction, right? An introduction to Resimmercial. And this is the link between residential real estate and commercial real estate, right? So as Yvette said, I've been a real estate broker over 20 years. As you'll see, the pre-lunch agenda, right? We're gonna move quickly. There's a lot of information, but we will move quickly. So I'll start off with the objective, right? Let you know what you're in store for. An introduction of myself, brief one. Then we'll get into the commercial real estate, right? An introduction to commercial real estate, all of its different sectors and types. Then an overview of what Resimmercial is, right? And it's really a new concept, so we'll get into that a little bit. And then community development, how real estate, right, is connected to community development, how it is community development. All right, so by the end of today's session, you will have a better understanding of commercial real estate, right? You'll have a better understanding of the link between residential and commercial real estate. And then lastly, you'll have a better understanding of how commercial real estate impacts community development, right? At the end of the day, it's all about community development. So a little about me, right? I was born in New York City, Washington Heights, Upper Manhattan, and I was raised by a single immigrant mother of two, right? I'm Afro-Latino by way of West Africa, Peru and Panama, right? And the subway map represents my upbringing, right? My urban upbringing. And it's really also one of the ways that I got to experience real estate, especially when I went above ground in New York. If you haven't been, I highly recommend it. The South Bronx. Right? The South Bronx is basically where I honed my community activism skills, if you will. Where I met a lot of great community activists. One of the other things is that I am well-traveled. I like traveling. And I highly recommend it because, you really get, when you travel, you get to see people really like how they are outside of the US. And once you travel, you'll see that, really anywhere you go, man, we're really very similar. And actually that similarity should give us permission, right, to accept our differences and celebrate our differences, hopefully, right? And so the more we understand each other, the more we understand other people, believe it or not, the more you learn about yourself. Right? So I highly, highly recommend traveling. And this idea, this last one here, nanut sibi ministrateur, serut ministre, right? Not to be served, but to serve. That was the model in my high school, right? I went to a boarding school, Taft, small school out in Watertown, Connecticut. And so giving of oneself, right? Volunteering, that's always been a part of it, right? And giving for the betterment of others, it's been ingrained in me even like before high school. But actually being at that school really cemented it. And then my high school experience like opened my eyes to the world. But my college experience at Wesleyan University, that really gave me like the tools and the ability to do something with what it was that I was now seeing, right? And so again, college, best 4 years of my life, my young life. All right, a little bit more, right? My passions, let me go back. My passions, right? I am passionate about real estate. I am passionate about community development. I am passionate about youth development, right? And those things are seemingly unrelated. But as I've experienced throughout my career, and hopefully as you will see a little bit later on, as I make some of the connections, you'll see how they are related, right? I became interested in real estate when I was in high school, right? Pretty much like some of you here. And then during my junior and senior year in college, I interned for an investment bank. Luckily, I did a good job there and they hired me on full time. I actually bought my first property, a 3-family house in the South Bronx while I was a senior in college, right? So I bought the place. Right after college, I lived with my 2 best friends, my cousin and my best friend, and then I rented out 2 apartments, right? So, and I say this not as a bragging thing, but I've never paid rent in my life, right? And it wasn't because I had some special skill or any special talent, right? I just knew what to do. And so part of this here, part of these sessions is to provide the information, right? Just the resources, just so you can access it. I digress. So anyway, in the bank, when I started in the bank, like I was working on literally projects that I was working on billions with a B of dollars, right? And so for a young kid coming from the hood, you know, making it on Wall Street, I had lived the dream, right? My mom was through the roof, you know, happy about where my career was going. But like most people who work on Wall Street, right? And most people will tell you, right? The job, the work isn't always fulfilling, right? So I left. So I left banking, man. My mom thought I was crazy, right? But I left that secure job because I wanted to do something more, something that had more meaning. And crazy enough, right? People say, well, you got into commercial real estate, Rob. How is that? But when I went into commercial real estate, I was more boots on the ground. I was working in the Bronx, working in Harlem, working in Brooklyn, and really while I was doing the job, I was learning. I was learning the streets. I was learning people. I was learning businesses. I was learning, you know, what was going on, what causes and effects. Right? When we talk about learning something, learning a topic, it's not just about going online, looking at that definition and saying, hey, I know what it is. I know what community development is. I know what racism is. I know what environmental racism is because I looked at the definition, right? With critical thinking, right? And I stress this, and you guys know this, right? I stress this. You got to look at the problem, the causes, the root causes, and then the effects of those problems in order to really understand it, right? That's beyond the definition. So when I was doing commercial real estate, I was in the ground. I was really like also helping change the real estate landscape in the city, right? And so when you're in the ground, when you're doing real estate, and there's so many, again, I'll get into it. There's so many things you can do within real estate, right? It's not just about selling or buying or leasing, right? So many things, but, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my history so you can sort of see, but the things that I learned, right? They don't teach in a book, right? The things that I learned, they weren't teaching in classroom, or maybe my class, right? But in other classroom, right? But so real estate also afforded me, and this is the thing, man, real estate, like education, to me is freedom, right? And so when you have it, no one can take it away from you, right? And so with real estate, it's afforded me again, freedom. I volunteered for a full year while in AmeriCorps, right, in New York City, the first class that did that. I completed several fellowships. I worked for a nonprofit housing developer, right? That was probably one of my favorite jobs because we actually, my job as a property manager spurred my desire to finally get into the classroom, right? You want to talk about connections? We had students, there was this kid, physically disabled. We didn't have an elevator. He lived on the 3rd floor. We didn't have an elevator. So literally every day, I was the property manager, literally every day, it would take a village sometimes to get this kid up to the 3rd floor. right? Every day. And the next day you have to come down, right? Go to school and then come back. And so when you look at that, that's real estate, right? Imagine if there was an elevator in that building. Would that not have made his life easier? Everybody else's life? Imagine that been handicap accessible. Imagine if they were able to have or pay affordable rent in a building that had those amenities, right? So that's right there, the connection between real estate and community. One connection, right? There are many. But again, some of my highlights in real estate, I got to sit at the table with some of the biggest developers in the world, right? Not just in the city, not just in the country, I'm talking about in the world, right? Be at the table with them, engage, have conversations, even advise them, right? And so when you have access to that, right, you got to do something good with it. You can't. It's not just all about what's in it for me. I promise we're going to get into commercial real estate. I promise. So ironically, my first job teaching was at a school called Taft. You heard before, I went to a school called Taft, right? The school where I taught is in the South Bronx, the first school in the country to get metal detectors. Right? So you talk about a culture shock, right? So, which would have been probably the school I would have gone to had I not gone to boarding school. And boarding school is in the complete opposite spectrum, $70,000 a year to go to that school right now, right? So, that last year, actually that first year of teaching, I also started a youth development program around the sport of wrestling, right? And so we actually have the first girls wrestling program in New York City. We're actually doing a documentary on that. One more highlight of my real estate, I got to live a dream, right? Everybody sees the shows on TV, fix and flip houses, do a DIY. So I've been in real estate all this time, and I was like, you know what? I want to do that. I renovated my own place, renovated a couple of my sisters, and said I want to do that. So I went down to Baltimore, and I was in Baltimore City for 5 years, fixing and flipping houses. It was a dream. I'm gonna give you some of the ugly. It was also a nightmare fixing and flipping houses in Baltimore, right? Unless you have some thick skin, I wouldn't recommend it. Let me see, and in real estate, to me, one of the worst things then is putting in so much time on a deal, and the deal doesn't happen, right? And so, that sucks to me. That's. But when you get to the root of real estate, at the end of the day, real estate has been around as long as man has, right? And so actually, like this real estate right here, probably some of the most valuable real estate anywhere, right? It's one of the 8 wonders of the world in Machu Picchu. I took that picture. And those my people's lands, right? Peruvian, those are my people's land. That's real estate right there, right? Real estate can move, right? It doesn't have to necessarily, give you dollars to make you feel good, right? You go there, you're gonna feel something you've never felt before. I'll tell you that, right? All right, let's keep it moving. So anyway, traveling, I highly recommend it. That wrestling program, that's a story for another time. But definitely, one of my passions. All right, and so that wraps up my introduction. Hopefully you learned a little about me, and now on to the commercial real estate. So like I told you, I love real estate. And my career started in commercial, and then it's transitioned, and I've done like pretty much everything within real estate. And so commercial real estate can be defined as any real property that is used for business or to generate cash flow. And as I'll show you later on, you'll see there are many ways to generate cash through commercial real estate. All right, and commercial real estate, right, is also known as commercial property or investment property, and I'll use those terms interchangeably throughout. Right? The acronym for commercial real estate is CRE. And so through this part, I'm going to move quickly, right? But again, it's just an overview of everything. And there are 8 types of CRE or commercial real estate, right? Office, and you all seen them, right? So you guys are all of you are familiar with them, right? First one is office, right? These doctors' offices, government buildings, you've seen those. Multifamily, right? Multifamily is when you got more than 5 residential units. And I'll make the connection, and I think I just made one, right? The connection between how multifamily or real estate is connected to community development. But unlike these pictures of these beautiful multifamily buildings, right? Imagine an ill-managed property, right? With frequent heat failure, peeling lead paint, right? Or infested with roaches and vermin, right? How do you think that would impact community development? How would that impact community, right? And not just like on the surface, right? What does that do to people's self-esteem, right? How do they get up and like, you know what? I'm ready to rock and roll when they're living under those conditions, right? Perfect example of multifamily impacting community development, right? One of my local Bronx heroes, Majora Carter. If you haven't heard of her, I recommend looking her up. Majora Carter. She started a movement in the South Bronx, really trying to make buildings healthy, and it's actually turned into a national movement. And so, somebody that I look up to, especially when it comes to that affordable housing space. Retail. You guys all know retail. This is where you shop, right? I'll give you another link. Whole Foods. If you see Whole Foods coming to your neighborhood, you are either very happy or you're priced out. All right? And I'll make that connection a little bit later on. All right, hotels, hospitality, right? Hotels, motels, inns, those all fall under hospitality. And same way here, right? Again, showing you the beautiful ones, but what's the difference between having a nice high-end hotel like this in your community or having a lower grade hotel? How about a motel? How about a short stay motel? Right? Who's coming through your neighborhood? Who's coming through your town? Right? Impact. That is impact on the local community. Special purpose. Right? This one is interesting. I like special purpose. Right? Because this falls under miscellaneous categories. And here we have a stadium. It can be, let me just back it up really quickly here, right? You can have stadiums, hospitals, golf courses, amusement parks. They all generate income in one way, right? And if you are looking to sell these things, you need to, one of the beautiful things, as I mentioned before about real estate, is there's a whole range of careers. And even if you say, I'm going to do sales in commercial real estate, as I show you, there are 8 types of commercial real estate, right? The folks who are doing multifamily are going to not know how to evaluate a stadium, for example, right? Completely different language, completely different ballgame. But I'll mention some of those careers shortly. Land. Again, land is great because the one thing that you cannot make more of is land. Actually, I lied. In Dubai, they've actually made land. I'm not lying. They bought in sand. It can be done, right? But that's a very rare, very rare. But sometimes land doesn't even produce cash at all, right? You're not getting money for that land per se, but unless you do something with it, right? So the way land generates money is when something is produced or when it's traded. Traded being sold or leased, right? So farming, right? You could own the land, right? But until you do something with that farmland, it's not producing anything, right? So that's a way to live. One of the great things about the Inland Empire that I like about the Inland Empire and San Bernardino is that there is so much land. Land, to me, presents an opportunity for development. An opportunity, it's a blank canvas, right? Obviously, we'll get into zoning and things like that in a little bit, but so another potential land deal, the Empire State Building, for example, was built on leased land. That means the owners of the building did not own the property that the building sat on. The World Trade Center, the original World Trade Center, also had a 99-year lease. The owner said, you do whatever you want with my land. Somebody built the World Trade Center. The longest lease that I've ever done is 50 years. And that one, I'll tell you another way to make money, right? Here, I did the deal. Somebody got 50-year lease called a master lease, right? And then they went out and subdivided the space and rented it out, right? Subleased it. So let's say they rented it out for $100. Then they broke it up and rented out those, let's say 100 pieces for $2 a piece. So now they were getting $200, paying $100 to the original landlord, and now they've got $100 in profit. They haven't done anything except they don't own the land, right? They just had a chance to rent it for a little bit. And so that's one way to make money. The other way that this investor, basically, we're gonna call him, other way he made money is, right? He leased the land, broke it up, rented it out, And because he had a 50-year lease, he then sold that lease, right? He sold the master lease because there was a sublease on it, and the difference he was able to capitalize. Long story, he made money on the sublease, and then he sold that lease. Worked similar to a regular real estate transaction. Well, he made money on that thing twice. He didn't even own the property. Kind of crazy. But it can be done another way. You can get creative. If you want to get creative in real estate, there's a ton of ways to make money. I'll show you a couple of those ways in a little bit. Mixed use. Mixed use, you've seen these as well, right? The most common ones are you have commercial at the bottom, right? Retail, storefronts, and then apartments up top, right? In New York City, that's pretty much like the common, right? You got stores on the bottom, residential on top. Now, what we're seeing, right, and I think it's great, is you're seeing basically micro cities being developed. So we'll take, let's say, a big piece of land, you'll have some residential on it, you'll have some hospitality on it, you'll have some offices on it, some retail on it, right? That way, you're basically creating a micro city. People don't even have to go like away from your area, right? And so people do that with big developments, but you can do that in a very small area as well. Right? Again, you just got to get creative. In New York City, I've done deals where we had residential, we had nonprofit on the second floor, and then you have retail on the first floor. Right? So 3 different classes all in one building. Like in the Inland Empire, you start seeing it in Redlands. I've seen some of these communities in Riverside. I'm starting to see them. So it's definitely there. Industrial. I saved this one for last for a number of reasons. It's a huge sector, right? And if you get into industrial real estate, there are so many different levels of it. But I love it. I'm starting to love it. I didn't start doing industrial. I actually got into industrial when I came out here to California. It's a different landscape than in New York. And I'll get into that in a bit. But again, hundreds of different types of careers that you can have throughout real estate, but especially in the industrial sector. In this industrial sector, to me, from what I'm seeing, it's leading the way in innovation and technology. We're talking about industry, small scale manufacturing, e-commerce, right? I think because of the pandemic, the industry has changed, right? There's so many factors. And again, we could really have a whole course on this, right? But so many factors that affect like real estate. Today, in industrial real estate today, right? We had the pandemic, right? Supply chain issues, right? We've got material sitting out on the ports. Jobs weren't created for a long time, right? The economy shut down for a long time. So whoever's trying to do business the same way as 2 years ago, I don't even know what to say about that, right? So you have, especially now, like this new industries that are being built, new industrial buildings. The industrial buildings are not the same ones from the Industrial Revolution, right? We're not talking about, just, a whole bunch of people lined up and humans doing the work. Forget about that. And forget about the days of humans packing up machines or putting in, boxes and putting them onto the trucks and delivering them. Forget about that, right? If you are looking a year from now, 2 years from now, you're graduating high school, you're graduating college, right? You have to know technology at this point. You have to get into development. You have to. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And in real estate, there's so many opportunities. Like the logistics. I mean, again, I'm crazy about it. I'm really getting crazy about it because so many opportunities and the impact that it can have on community is enormous. But like, again, community development, community jobs, the blue collar jobs, forget about it, right? Those are gone. Those are like becoming extinct. So you've got to get with it, right? And this goes across the board, not just young people, right? Older folks as well. Everybody has to get on it, or you're gonna get left behind. On a more local level, like I'm really fascinated by industrial because of this, one of the categories called flex space. Like in New York City, industrial is manufacturing. We didn't really have distribution centers. Maybe in the Bronx you did, right? And then you had the 18-wheelers coming in, messing up the air, trucks idling, the impact on the local community. But out here in California, what I've seen, and I love it, is this flex space. You can have like retail out front, you can manufacture inside, and you can distribute all from the same location. Like in New York, you know, the zoning, you really can't do that. In New York, actually, the industrial market, in the 90s, early 2000s was gone, disappearing, right? Those blue collar jobs are gone. Those buildings started to get converted into residential, knocking them down, turning into retail. I did industrial deals, but conversions into retail. And when I was in New York, like, hey, you know, auto places, again, those today extinct. So when you think about community development, imagine having take one of these vacant blocks and lots right up here on Highland, put up a building with small spaces, right? That small community businesses can go in and not just have a space to sell their stuff, but also have a place to make their stuff and then to distribute it using e-commerce. What would that do to that local community, man? Like, and not just financially, right? People always think real estate, economic development is just financial. No, man, we're talking about humans, developing humans, right? Holistically, like our education. So you get a proper, get rid of these lots, do something productive there. That has that is good trickle down effects, right? Not trickle down economics, right? Trickle down effects is when you do stuff in the community and everybody benefits from it. All right. So I could go on for days about this. All right. There are 3 different types of classes across all commercial real estate. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna back up really quickly. I want to show something. Land. And one of the things I didn't put up here as another category is air. Right? In New York, right? And I'm not an expert everywhere about air, but in New York, there's something called air rights. You can sell, depending on the zoning and buildable square feet, you can sell the air above your land or above your building. What? All right, I'll give you a quick little example. Let's say on this piece, right here, this piece of land, I can build a 5-story building, but instead I build a 3-story building. That means I left 2 stories that didn't get built. My next door neighbor, he can build 5 stories as well, but I can give him my 2 stories that I didn't use and give it to them, right? Assuming the zoning allows it, and they can go from their 5, they can build a 7-story, right? So, but no, I can no longer build 5 stories. That's it. I sold my air rights for 2. So you can do that over residential buildings. In New York, you'll see this. This is crazy. You'll see, here's a building right here. Next door is a vacant piece of land. Maybe this has a vacant piece of land. You'll see buildings now being built going over an existing building. So yes, you can sell air in some places. Of course, it doesn't make sense to sell air, they say out here in California. You have so much land. But like I said, unless you're in Dubai, you can't build more land. In New York, definitely not. All right, so now we get to the different classes. And this is across all the different types of real estate. All right, basically 3 levels of classifications. Class A are those newer buildings, like brand new, state-of-the-art, and brand new buildings today, like today are different than brand new buildings 2 years ago. Again, right, there's this push towards energy conservation, green buildings. Right now, you have to have prime location, and your building has to be energy efficient pretty much nowadays in order to be classified as Class A. Right? Class B are slightly older buildings. They may still be in great locations, but they're a little bit older. Right? They could use some maintenance, some upkeep. And then Class C buildings, those buildings are usually at least 20 years old, a lot of deferred maintenance. Deferred maintenance means when you need to renovate or invest money into the property in order to bring it up to standards. And so again, think about your community. And I have, again, this urban, very compact way of thinking of how people live. And out here, of course, there's more land, people are more spread out. But think about, again, that Class C building. Buildings in New York were built in the 1920s, right? And they're still here today, those buildings, right? So think about if those buildings haven't been renovated, or if they haven't been completely stripped or completely painted over from that lead paint or lead pipes, right? Or mold, or like these buildings have been around a long time, right? Are they energy efficient? I tell you what, no. But look, and here's the other, man. The building my mom, I grew up in a building with my mom, right? My mom lived in that building 35 years, renting. I lived in that building up until I went to college and got my own place. And I lost my train of thought, so we're gonna keep on. Forgot where I was going with it, but if I get it, it'll come back. All right, 4 leases, 4 lease types. Again, in general, this is throughout all the sectors of commercial real estate. These leases are different than residential leases that some of you may be familiar with, right? First, a residential lease is usually 1 year, maybe 2 years, right? You get a monthly bill, and that's what your rent is. You're responsible for your utilities, usually water, maybe the landlord pays for that, or you may, depending on the setup. But in commercial real estate, generally 4 types of leases. All right, the first one is single net, right? And this is where the tenant or the retailer pays the tax. I mean, they pay their rent plus the taxes. Double net means the tenant pays the rent plus the taxes plus insurance, like real estate insurance, things like that. Triple net means tenants pay the real estate taxes, they pay the insurance, and they pay maintenance, right? So folks got to come up and clean the common areas, that'll be in there. And then there's a gross lease. The gross lease is basically saying, look, the tenant pays one rent, the landlord pays the taxes, the insurance, and all of that, right? And so when you get into the nitty gritty, after you've been doing this for a while, each of these will have a different price. Let's say it's the same building, right? But there's a different price for each one. I've learned over time, some owners will make this gross number down at the bottom really big and say, hey, it's so I can pay X, Y, and Z and whatnot, right? So not only did this location get rebuilt, right? And so like most things that get rebuilt, like a shopping center, right? People go, they consume, then they leave. Here, at least, right? Students, families are coming here, consuming, and then hopefully after today, right, taking this knowledge and now you're spreading it, right? So that's what I really like about what's going on here. And so when you start looking at now, when you go out, when you start going into your communities and you see a vacant Kmart or a vacant Pathmark or a vacant Walmart, and it's been sitting there, right? Save-A-Lot. I've seen a few vacant Save-A-Lots, right? It doesn't need to be retail. Right? You gotta think outside the box. You gotta think differently. Look at something like this. I think, all right, now looking at the connection, right? Now when you get into the business of real estate, you start making connections. You gotta start making predictions almost. So I know for a fact that this school right here, right, what's happening here is good. I know that what's happening here should be replicated, right? There should be other schools like this opening up, right? So thinking ahead, hey, I'm gonna link up with the heads, the folks who are running this organization. You know what? How can I help you find your next location? And that's where I put on my real estate hat and do my analysis and help find the land and whatnot. But this is also the role that hey, I'm just a real estate person, right? But I care about my community. I care about seeing things happen. I care about seeing upliftment. So I'm going to reach out. I'm going to reach out to RJA heads. I'm going to reach out to Mr. Padilla and say, look, this needs to happen. How can I help? What pieces do I need to do? Who do I need to bring to the conversation so that this can happen, right? We need to talk to landlords. We need to talk to property owners who are going to be creative, who are not just thinking, hey, I've got this big empty space. I want a warehouse, right? That's nice. It's going to make you money. But how about thinking a little bit more, again, proactively, progressively? Let's keep it moving. All right. I was going to do a case study, quick little case study before we get into Resimmercial. And I will show you really how the financial part of commercial real estate works, right? So you can sort of see, and again, this is running up on time, right? So there's a lot. So I'm just gonna run over this really quickly. If you've got a calculator, have it out because I might ask you for some information. So this is just an overview of the general structure when doing a deal. I'm gonna show you the lease side, show you how to evaluate that lease so then you can sell it. Two different ways to make money on real estate. So let's say, for example, we've got a space that is 5,000 square feet. The universal sign for square feet is this. You can do SF or you can do SQ.FT, right? Either one of those is okay, usually. In commercial real estate, your rent is valued on a per square foot basis, all right? When you're doing residential, your rent is based on the number of bedrooms, usually, right? Square footage a little bit, depending on where you're at. But in commercial real estate, it's based on the value per square foot. So let's just say it's 5,000 square feet. The owner wants $18 a square foot. I'm just gonna put $18 right here, a square foot. Another thing here, difference, the different languages, if you will, within commercial real estate. In New York, if I'm in New York, somebody says $18 a square foot, I know what that means. That means that I am taking the total square feet, 5,000, and multiplying it by 18. 5,000 times 18, 90,000 should be. Is that right? 90, yeah. All right. If you're doing commercial real estate, you also got like numbers. I mean, right? So, all right. But here's the thing. I'm in New York. I say, you know what? $18 a square foot, great. If I'm in California, I am in now, I say $18 a square foot. Somebody's gonna say, $18 a square foot? That sounds like a lot, right? Because in New York, this $18 a square foot, everyone knows the general language is you're talking about it on an annual basis per year. So this 90,000 is your rent per year. 90,000 divided by 12, 7,500, it should be. Let me know if I'm wrong. All right, so that's your monthly rent. But this is New York. In California, people use here on a square foot per month. So if I'm in New York and I'm talking to somebody in California, I say, yeah, $18 a square foot. In New York, I'm thinking that's cheap. Over here, thinking, yo, you're crazy, right? Because I need to be specific. So here in California, really, this $18, the way it should be spoken is it's $1.50 a square foot. That's $18 divided by 12, gives you your monthly, that's $1.50 a square foot, right? If you do $1.50 times 5,000, you should get 7,500. That's the same thing, right? So that's just quick overview, right? Now, of course, let's just assume this is a triple net lease. Pop quiz, what's a triple net lease? So the tenant is paying the real estate taxes, the tenant is paying the insurance, and the tenant is paying maintenance. So in this case, we're gonna call this, we'll mess with the annual numbers. We're gonna call this your NOI. That's your net income. So in this case, this is called NOI, net operating income. This is what the landlord or the owner gets. Not all real estate is created equal. Not all real estate is valued the same. So let's just assume we're gonna take this. Now you know how to figure out a rent. That's how you figure out a rent. I mean, that's it. Take the square footage, multiply it by the rent per square foot. That gives you your annual number. In real estate, in commercial real estate, valuations, how you value the price or put a value on the price is based on, it's different than in residential. In residential, really the house is worth just about the same as the last house that was sold that looked and felt like it. In real estate, I show you 3 different ones, right? So let's just do industrial. retail, and let's go with office. We're gonna use that same $90,000 in income for each of these industries. Right. So, again, in real estate, not all real estate is created equal, and not all tenants are created equal, right? So, for example, on the residential side, you have credit scores, right? Somebody who has a 700 credit score probably has a better chance of getting a rental than someone who has a 500 credit score, right? And so retailers, tenants, commercial tenants, they also have a credit rating, right? Sometimes it's not as clear, right? And really what the owners are going to look at are your financials, right? How much money you have, how much money you've made, right? And do you pay your bills generally? But in these different industries, people have a different expectation of what their investment should return. So again, this is very high level overview, but in the industrial market today, right, because of the short supply, really driven by the short supply, people on a good lease, all across the board, we're just gonna say they're good leases, good tenants. On a good tenant today, will expect a return of, let's say, 4% return on their money. That means, hey, I put up $90,000, I expect to get 4% return on my money in this sector in today's market based on the tenant that is there, right? If you have a really good tenant, let's say you have, let's say a Walgreens, right? They have really good tenants. I mean, they're a really good tenant, really great credit. You are not, let's say they rent their $90,000, not here in retail. Let's say this is Walgreens $90,000. That's different than if I were paying rent in that building. I was paying the same $90,000, but mine is not as secure as Walgreens, right? So let's say if this was Walgreens, people are expecting on Walgreens today around 5% return on their money. And then on the office side today, especially office market has taken a little bit of a hit, right? People are working from home now. You know, lots of landlords, lots of tenants are saying, hey, I need less space, right? My workforce is working remotely, right? And so because of that vacancy, and again, these are general numbers, right? It's all on the case by case, but I'm gonna go with right now 6%. That's kind of multifamily, right? So the same income, right? What's 90,000 divided by 4%? Divided by 4%. And then I want somebody to do divided by 5%, and then 90,000 divided by 6%. Go ahead. So to find the valuations, you take the net income and you have to divide it by the percent or by the return that you're expecting. It's also called, in commercial real estate, it's also called cap rate. Capitalization rate, basically what you expect to return, your return on investment. You can buy property based off of cap rate, or once you know what the price, determine what your cap rate is. All right, so 90,000 divided by 5%. Who had that? I have 4%, 5%, 6%. 2.25 million over here. 90,000 divided by 5%. 1.8. And divided by 6? 1.5. Right? The same income, 3 different property types, 3 different sale prices or valuations, if you will. Now, when we start talking about on the commercial, as a commercial tenant representative, landlord representative, this is Walgreens. Right? AutoZone right now is probably right around 5.25%. CVS is right around there. Somebody like Family Dollar is right around there. I'm trying to think of someone who doesn't have. Billy Bob's Pizza down the block. Nobody's gonna want a 5% return on their money there. You know what? For Billy Bob, I want 10% return on my money, right? A 10% return on their money makes this $900,000. The same space, the same location, two different tenants have different valuation on the property. All right, that's quick. That's really quick overview, right? But let's keep it moving so we can get to the Resimmercial part. As you see here, Resimmercial. The reason why you see so many different spellings of it is because really, we, my team, we're making it whatever we want it to be. Right? Nobody has officially claimed Resimmercial, right? The concept was introduced, I'm gonna say sometime in the 2010s, right? It was loosely created, but I mean, I've done the research. I've been trying to find the origin so that I don't steal anybody's thunder, but I think Resimmercial is gonna be mine. So we're claiming it, right? So that's why we went with the 2 M's on the top and the bottom. That's what we decided. All right, Resimmercial. Again, on the most basic level, it was a design style that was created when there was a push to make the offices, to make your work environment as similar to your home space as possible. So in modern offices today, workspaces, you'll see couches, you see rugs, TVs, lounges, right? Even in special purpose places like this one here, right? You go outside, you walk along the atrium, you'll see couches, you'll see lounges, you'll see extra seating. Even in classrooms, right? Teachers are bringing in the home comfort into the classroom. So you have seating areas, again, reading nooks, lounges, colleges and universities too. Right, so that's Resimmercial in a nutshell, right? The original, we'll say the original way that it was presented, right? It's basically trying to find this harmony between the workplace and the home space. And today, again, especially today, because of the pandemic, people now need, not just want, now they need bigger spaces, right? They've got those home offices. People are splitting time between home and work. All right, and so just as we are claiming it, right, we are really redefining what Resimmercial means. What we're trying to do within our group is really make that connection between residential and commercial and community development clear, right? And for some reason, the two sectors have always been pitted against each other, right? It's either, hey, you do commercial or you do residential, right? Never really finding a happy medium between the two. So I think that's where we're coming in. We're trying to change things up. Really want to provide a whole end-to-end perspective when it comes to real estate, right? You can't deny that commercial real estate impacts the community. I mean, we've shown it, you see it on a regular basis, right? There's no denying it. All right, so on the most basic level, right? There's an inextricable, why am I messing it up? Inextricable. There's an inextricable link between residential and commercial, right? On the most basic level, the human beings running the commercial businesses are human beings who need homes. That's it, period, right? It's just simple as that, right? And so prior to November of 2021, right? In 20 plus years of me being in commercial real estate, I never, not once even thought about asking one of my clients what their home situation was, whether they were gonna buy a home or sell a home, what they were doing. Never thought of it, right? One, residential was never like on my radar on that level. And second, I wouldn't even know whom to recommend on the residential side, right? So if you're a residential agent, right, if you're thinking about getting into residential or into real estate, I highly recommend, seeing what's up on the commercial side as well. Right? A lot of connections, right? If you're about community, if you're about uplifting and trying to really have an impact, right? You can definitely do that on the residential. I think there are a lot more opportunities to do that on the commercial. But again, for residential, right? If you're a real estate agent, on the residential side, having that connection on the commercial side is like a built-in lead generator, right? And so what I mean by that is, for example, you take care of the owner of that business. And we started doing this, right? You take care of the owner of that business, you find them a commercial space or a space that is gonna suit them. You know, you show that you care about their financial well-being and whatnot, and you do a deal, I guarantee you that when you ask, hey, what we just did on the commercial side, we have folks on the residential side on our team who can do the same thing. Right? And there, at that point, the conversation is easy, right? At the times that we've introduced it, we don't introduce it at the very beginning. Hey, we're doing a commercial real estate business. All right, let's do your residential at the same time. We don't do that, right? Hey, we are gonna take care of your commercial business needs. As soon when we do that, and you have closed that deal, you trust us, right? Because we have done the work, and now I can say, hey. Now that we've taken care of your commercial, what about your residential? And pushing it along, right? Taking it to another level, right? You do right by them, they're gonna tell their friends, their neighbors. Even another level, right? And this is again, as a real estate agent, as a real estate person, professional, you gotta think outside the box. Hey, now I've got this good relationship with the owner. They know I trust, they know I'm doing my job. They trust me. Hey, you know what, owner? What if I come in and do a workshop at your job to show folks how they can get into home ownership, right? Yo, let's turn your workforce from renters into owners. Are they gonna be okay with that? Chances are they are. Chances are they are. Chances are if you do right by them, they will do right by you. And so I think when you, as a real estate pro, right? When you can do that, when you are providing more services, when you are helping that company, for example, right? Retain their employees, retain that talent, right? When they are buying in the community that they also work in, right? All of that, that's trickle down, right? The folks who are there are gonna take better care of the residents around, right? They're gonna take better care of making sure that if they see something out of place, they're gonna talk and make sure that the people that need to be talked to take care of that stuff, right? You do, at the end of the day, you gotta do right by the people. You do right by the people, everything else takes care of itself. Yes, here. So this, now here we're making, again, the connection, right? We're making Resimmercial our own. And so with that, because we're sort of creating this new thing, it's also, there is some theory to it as well, not just fully practiced. So we created this sort of growth flow so you can get a visual of it. But before anything, now we're just, imagine we're going out a couple of miles east of here, right? We just got big open land. Right? Before anything, you need infrastructure, right? So then you start planning ahead, right? All right, so you need roads, you need sewage, you need water, you need electricity, you need power, right? That's the first thing that happens. I'll make another connection here, right? If you start seeing in your neighborhood, if you start seeing the roads getting widened, if you start seeing the on-off ramps getting widened, right? If you start seeing the meridians in a certain place getting beautified, they are not doing that for you. They are not doing it for the residents that are currently there. They're doing it for the residents that are coming. All right? So if you see this, if you know this, if you're in tune to what's going on in the community, you know how to prepare for that, right? And so that's the first thing. You see the infrastructure happen. Then the next thing, you need some jobs, right? So that's where industry comes in. And to me, this is where the industrial market really comes in. And I didn't get into too much about the industrial market. I could have gone deeper, right? But there are two basic levels or functions of industrial. One is manufacturing, right? You got to create things. And today, I guarantee you that the United States will see more manufacturing in the next couple of years than it has seen in I don't know how long, right? For the simple, again, COVID, right? These supply chain issues, these supply problems, the only way you can guarantee that you don't have to wait for your cargo is if you build it yourself, right? So this whole Build America, it's gonna happen, right? And so if you know this, right? If you see the infrastructure, you know what's coming next is the industry. And today, like I said, the industries that are coming are high tech, even the industrial buildings, right? You're gonna see electric vehicle manufacturers coming over here. I think there's already one down in San Bernardino, an electric truck company is starting to build over there. That's what's happening. The logistics, all AI, artificial intelligence. If you think you're going in there running industries or anything, not knowing AI, not knowing how to control, you're gonna be outside. You're not going inside. All right, so now you have the industry. Now you got the jobs. Now you gotta build houses, right? Because now people aren't gonna come from 2 hours away to go to work, right? They wanna be around there. So now you build a house. This is where that residential component comes in, right? You start developing housing. Hopefully, right, the people, the stakeholders, the people at the table, hopefully, right, they're thinking about community, and hopefully they're thinking about this whole spectrum here, right, and not just building in a silo. Hey, I've got this land, I'm going to build here, and not taking into consideration how it impacts the rest of that block or the rest of that city, right? So yes, keep that, and then finally, right, the residential. That's what drives the commercial real estate. Once the people are there, then the restaurants come, then the shopping comes, right? Then the hospitality. Now you got people there, you need friends to stay over, they're not seeing that trouble, right? So then that starts driving that business. Now, if you come in late in the game and you're the commercial real estate side, you missed the whole thing. And beyond, forget about just the financial part, right? Look, if you can plan for this, you can make money at every single stage of this thing, right? But more than that, right? If you are about community, you can include yourself in these things, right? And make sure that the folks who are coming along, are playing by the rules, if you will, right? And to me, the rules are everybody eats. All right, let's keep it moving. All right. So again, my group, like we're looking to the future based on the past. Right? We're data driven, but we are community inspired. Like this, real estate with purpose. That's basically where we're at. So if folks here, folks online, if you are interested in learning about commercial real estate, how to make money in commercial real estate, let's connect, let's talk. Right? But in terms of careers, it's not all just about, sales and leasing. There are a ton of careers. So I'll just name a few: property management, right? Technology, space planning. If you're an interior designer, if you're an architect, if you're in security, not just building security, tech security, online security, development, engineering, landscaping, right? And landscaping today is not just, hey, mow the lawn, right? It's a whole feature like this. People spend a lot of money on landscaping, and not just residential. I'm talking about commercial, right? Because it's all about making people feel good. You want people on the commercial side. If you are a commercial business and you want people there, right? And you want people to stay there. They spend money when they stay there, right? They invite other people when they stay there. I'll take questions in a sec. Let me run right through this real quick. Maintenance, right? And maintenance is different nowadays. Insurance, accounting, human resources. You can be a researcher, you can be a writer, you can be any of those skills, right, are valuable and useful in real estate. All right. And so that's how we got to, Resimmercial, right? And so again, here in San Bernardino, especially here in San Bernardino, I think there's so many opportunities to do proper community development, responsible community development, right? And so ultimately it's on everyone. Right? It's not just on the politicians to make sure that things happen the right way, right? It's on the real estate experts, it's on the pros, it's on mom and pop shops, it's on landlords, it's on renters, it's on students, it's on teachers. Really, it takes a whole village, right? And if everybody's at the seat, really the only way, and I've seen this happen so many times, we'll have community forums, we'll have public forums, and so people come and they're excited, but these public forums are late. It's too late. At the public forum, it's too late. The decisions have already been made, man. The public forums are just to give the semblance of input, right? But if you are in tune, if you understand the whole flow, then you know how to insert yourself, right? Again, if you see the road work happening, it's not happening because they said, oh, you know what, we should have made this bigger for the folks here. The traffic, it's not about you. All right. And of course, you know, so I say it's not just on the politicians, it's on everybody, right? I'm a community organizer at heart, and I know that I've never held a community forum or had a rally or anything where we had 100% participation. Actually, in community organizing, you know, I got like 10% participation, right? And I understand apathy, right? After a while, you hear the same things, you see the same things, you see it happen in LA, you see it move forward, you see it happening in Compton, you see it happening in Watts, and it keeps moving. Over on the east side, you saw it happen in Harlem first, then Washington Heights, then Brooklyn, then the Queens, then the South Bronx. Then people went into the boondocks. I'm talking about the boondocks in Brooklyn. Nobody would have ever thought of going there. Now it's $1 million houses, right? So, so out here in San Bernardino, one of the reasons I got involved in real estate out here is because I see it, right? I see all of the potential, and I see all of the changes that are happening, and I see all of the things that, again, the infrastructure. And I know people say, yes, no more traffic. You know, that's what they're thinking, right? I want you to think, all right, what's the next step? How do I position myself? How do I position my organization? How do I position my people so that we take advantage, so that we are ready when it comes? All right, but you know, so shout out to like organizations here in San Bernardino, like Uplift San Bernardino, Music Changing Lives, Everything San Bernardino, Making Hope Happen, right? These are all organizations who are like in it, like seriously in it. All right, and so lastly, that's a perfect segue to transition into community development. And again, this has all been high level, and I know it's a lot of content, so I appreciate you sticking through in all of this. But you know, in thinking about community development, and in this section in particular, I was talking to one of the students here who was taking pictures earlier, and actually this came up. Right, in one of my classes, community development and real estate development were like regular topics of conversation in our class, right? And then I remember one of the lessons, and maybe somebody here was in that class, right? I asked students to identify problems in their community. Right? So, and not just to identify the problem, right? To look at it deeply, like what is the root cause of that problem? So we had folks, man, we had students tell us about homelessness, sex trafficking, you know, retail. Retail was mentioned. Yo, why are all these liquor stores? Talk about community development, real estate. How many liquor stores? How quickly is it to find them? You can find a liquor store faster than you find a health center out here. Right? Is that on purpose? I don't know, I'm just asking, right? But students talked about the empty lots, and not just what's the problem with them, right? Hey, they attract riffraff, or they get trash, but they came up with solutions, right? And so those are the people that I want on my squad, right? They're not just pointing out the problems, man. You go on next door, you go on Facebook, you see people just problems. I want the people who are thinking about the problems, but think about solutions to those problems, right? So they talked about the empty lots. They came up with solutions. Community gardens, right? How about build some housing, build affordable housing? How about share produce in the community? Next level. They talked about liquor stores and the smoke shops, right? Not just that it's a problem. How do you solve it? Hey, how about limiting licenses? How about enforcing that these places look a certain place? Maybe they close after a certain hour. Boarded up buildings, right? That was another problem. Visual and safety hazards. You know, what's the impact of that? When you go down Arrowhead, for example, between 15th and 16th Street, you see burnt up buildings on the side. What does that do, right? And it's not just about, it looks ugly. No, what does that do for the community, the feeling, like the soul of that community? You know, kids having to come, and now you're not even just thinking about, hey, I gotta go to school. Now I gotta pass by this place. Now you got PTSD. That's for real. That's for real, right? That's real estate community impact. All right. And then in general, we have folks, you know, come up with ideas on how to help homeless, right? Building community centers, food centers, right? We're in a food desert, right? Just because we can go get KFC and Taco Bell or Del Taco right there, we are in a food desert. Try to find a healthy spot, How easy is it to, go get greens, an outdoor produce store? Not very, right? And so anyway, to me, that all of that involves commercial real estate, and it's obvious. Our young people, I'm telling you, they did videos, they did presentations on all of these things, and all of it has to do with real estate, right? So, our job as adults, as teachers, and not just as real estate professionals, right? But we have to empower. We have to empower each other. We have to empower others, right? And we do that really through understanding the connections, right? If you understand the whole picture, now you can see the ripple effect. What happens when you do this? What is the long term, right? And so it's not about ability. Everybody in here has ability. Everybody online that is watching this has the ability, right? It's about having the opportunity, access, the knowledge. So here you go, yo. All right, so again, this was like high level. Threw out a bunch of stuff at you, right? But this is real. Like, this is the stuff that I'm passionate about, right? And me personally, again, folks who are watching online, folks who are here, when we share this and record this, like, if you haven't seen it, I'm about community, right? I want to do what I can. And again, I've seen it. That's why, right? I've lived it. I've been impacted by it. I haven't even told you all my stories. Let me tell you about the stuff that happened in Baltimore. That's another time, right? So my point is that if any of this sparks, like if it resonates on any level, right? If you're interested, whether it's about making money as a realtor, residential, commercial, or just getting into the business. Again, I've done it. I've been an analyst. I've been a property manager, project manager. I've been in commercial. I've owned my own retail store, right? So I've been a retailer. I've paid rent as a tenant. And on the commercial side, I'm facing right now, helping my commercial clients, the same issues. They're facing the same issues as residents. Let me tell you, right? When gentrification happens, right? The first thing, rents go up. People have to move. They get displaced today, and so that's why I got into residential. I have to convert folks from renters into owners. Have to. It's a mission, right? And I've learned I have this passion also on the commercial side, because on the commercial side, look, I just did a deal where we leased a space. This client's been in business 20 plus years, paying last month, their rent was $10,500. They've been paying that for a long time. Starting today, February 1st, well, February 3rd is when they officially take over the space. They're paying $22,000 rent. That's not good. It's good for the landlord, it's good for the owner, but this business, been in business 20 years, they've been paying $10,000. That's part of their, and now literally more than double their rent, right? The industrial market. And so one of the things I told them, look, we got to find a way to get you into ownership. And so now that's another part of my conversation. So now when I'm talking to businesses, I'm not just saying, hey, yes, I've got spaces for you to rent. Look, for this rent, you can own. Let's talk about what are your purchasing options. Now, and look, now we're getting into, real estate being communal. One of the things that we're getting into is the tokenization of real estate, cryptocurrency in real estate, right? Blockchain technology in real estate. And so in my group, right, we're talking about how to make real estate accessible to as many people as possible. And we think we figured it out. Like we're talking to some people who figured it out, and it involves tokenization and NFTs. But all right, so look, folks, we're on social media, right? So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at Carrillo Group EXP. Follow us, especially on our Instagram. Every day we're posting stuff, every day, and informational stuff, right? Some of it is funny stuff, right? Sometimes inspirational, but really everything is about empowering and educating. Yo, I think that's it. All right, so thank you for your time. I hope you came away a little more, thank you for that, but with a little better understanding of all of these things. Brennan, it's very high level. Let's take some questions real quick. I saw a hand up before, so if you have a couple questions, I'll take them. I love it. ASAP. Oh, I forgot to say, you gotta be 18. 18. So let's connect. I'll get for sure.
So
For
what,
sure.
you guys want to grab we're gonna give you about 5 to 7 minutes to grab a food, but we're probably gonna do about 2 or 3 minutes, grab a plate really quick, get back to your seats. We're gonna have a couple of students talk our sponsors.